The opinions expressed in this program reflect only those of the participants and are not necessarily those of the sponsors, management, or staff of WTBQ Radio or FST Broadcasting Corporation.
WTBQ.
Hello and welcome to TG Talk Show Radio. Back by popular demand, we have Coach Eric Broser from last week. Eric, welcome back to the show. Thanks for taking the time to joining us. A lot of people love the show, so here you are again.
Yeah, well, thanks for having me back. I'm glad the people enjoyed what I had to say.
So we're just going to dive right in, Eric. So last week we talked about getting started on a weight training program for people just looking to get a little bit stronger with, 2 to 3 day work week or workout week. So let's talk about fat loss and muscle building. So recommendations. Well, first, talk about weight loss compared to fat loss.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting point because a lot of people sort of mix that up and they think it's kind of the same thing. So they think that as long as they're, dropping a ton of weight on the scale, that they're actually successfully transforming their body. Now, I would agree if somebody is, extremely overweight, maybe saw their doctor and the doctor's like, you need to seriously take 50, 75 pounds or more off because it's stressing your heart or stressing your organs, then yeah, it would be very smart to, be on a program that would take a lot of weight off relatively quickly and, get that weight down so that you're a little bit more of in a healthy position. But when you're talking about, people who are, the general population who are trying to sort of, let's say, change their body composition, which means most people, they don't want to just, lose weight. They also want to, have more muscle in their body. So they want to have a better percentage of fat to muscle ratio than they do. So you can't just focus on losing pounds on the scale.
So talk about sorry, go ahead before I ask you that. Keep going.
Yeah, so I was just going to say, so, you want to burn body fat, but at the same time, you want to make sure you're maintaining or building muscle, depending on what your overall goal is. Because if you just crash diet and say just remove a ton of calories from your diet, so you're very low, you're not eating very much, you're not really focusing on necessarily the type of calories you're taking in, and you just focus on losing that weight on the scale, a lot of muscle mass. So if you're losing lean tissue along with body weight, and of course some of it's going to be water, some of it's going to be fat, but if you're losing that lean tissue, then you can actually end up with a worse situation because your body fat percentage is, versus muscle is even worse in the end. So that's going to leave you feeling less strong, less fit, less healthy. And even though you may be, fitting to some smaller clothes, when you take your shirt off, it's not going to have a good look. So it's not a healthy way to go. So you have to focus on burning body fat and maintaining muscle. And that's a little bit more tricky than just simply trying to lose weight on the scale.
Which brings me into, okay, what are your best recommendations to do that? One, but before I get to that, we hear the term skinny fat.
Yes.
Yeah, so talk about that.
It's basically what I was just describing without actually using the term. And that
right.
is, it's basically, like I said, you're perhaps, let's say you weigh 200 pounds and you want to get down to 160 pounds and, you just go, okay, I need to eat, only 800 calories a day. You don't even care where they come from. You're not really exercising, or maybe you're not using weight training. Maybe you're just doing a ton of cardio. What tends to happen is you lose, like I said, you're losing that lean muscle mass while you're also losing some body fat and water. And then when you get down to that goal weight, you still look soft. You look untoned, as people will say. The muscles are very, very, flat. So you may even have, maybe even still a little bit of a belly, but the arms are really skinny, the shoulders are skinny, the chest is sunken in. So you have what the people will term skinny fat, because like I said, if you're in clothes, you may not see it. You'll be like, oh, you lost weight, great. But then when you take the shirt off, you can see that body composition is completely out of whack, and you're holding less muscle tissue. And that's also not going to serve you in the long run, because muscle tissue acts like a furnace. So in the long term, having more muscle on your body will actually help you to maintain weight loss over time while doing, you can actually eat more calories and do less, cardio, and, killing yourself every day with an hour of cardio. And you can maintain that weight loss simply because you become like a metabolic furnace when you're carrying that muscle. And that's what people don't understand.
Exactly, 100%. Great point. So now we have that out there. So let's talk about muscle building and burning fat. So how do we build that muscle and burning the fat?
Okay, so that's, that a lot of people think you can't do one or both at the same time. They think you have to just focus on one. And yes, certain situations, there'll be times where, maybe more so maybe an athlete or maybe even a regular person, because I've had people come to me and say, hey, I'd like to lose a little bit of body fat, but mainly I want to build muscle mass. I want to be a bigger person. Or somebody might say the opposite. They'll say, I want my muscles to look good, and, I don't want to lose what I have, but I want to focus on fat loss. But more often than not, people will say, I want both. I want both at the same time. And of course, that's, who wouldn't want both at the same time? That's a great thing, to be able to build muscle and burn fat. But it's a very, very tricky scenario, and it's a little bit more difficult, but it's not impossible. So what you need to do, and again, this is going to be sort of a blanket statement, because as we discussed on the first show, every person a coach will work with, their metabolism is different, their needs are different, their body types are different. So it's a little bit different for everybody. But in general, you want to make sure that you're taking in enough protein every day. For most people, I'd say, if you want to maintain or build muscle, you'll need about 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight to at least, have the ability to have the raw materials to gain muscle mass, or at the very least, maintain your muscle mass. You want to have carbohydrates. You want to have a timed carbohydrate diet. This is the way I feel it works best, because the body has different needs at different times of day. So when you first wake up in the morning, I recommend a higher carbohydrate meal, always with protein. Every meal should contain protein. So just to go over it quickly, if let's say you weigh 200 pounds and I'm saying you want 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, 5 meals a day, you're talking about 40 grams per meal. So you want to spread out that protein over overall 5 meals. You don't want to do 100 in the morning, 100 later. You don't want to do it that way. So every meal is going to have protein. That's your base. So let's just say we want to have, 150 grams of carbs for the day, and that's what, I work out for you. You'd want to have a larger amount in the morning. So when you first wake up, maybe it'll be 60 grams of carbohydrates. And then maybe post-workout, which is the second time that you want a higher carbohydrate meal, because, again, these are 2 times is when your body's most insulin sensitivity is the best. So your body's going to tend to store the carbohydrates in muscle tissue and not really utilize it for storing in body fat. So in the morning, when you fasted overnight, and after a workout, when your body has burned most of the glycogen, which is stored carbohydrate in the muscle, and then maybe your second meal, so that's 120 grams of carbs. I said 150, so maybe your second meal of the day, maybe you get in 30 grams of carbs. And then for the other 2 meals, just protein and healthy fats. So we're timing the carbohydrates to work with the body when the body needs them most, so that you're utilizing the calories most efficiently. So again, it's a timed carbohydrate diet, a higher protein diet, about 1 gram per pound. And then, of course, you want to couple that with weight training, which is what's going to help to build muscle mass. And also, here's a very interesting point about weight training that a lot of people don't know. They think that cardio is a lot of people feel that cardio burns fat, cardio burns fat. Yes, cardio can burn fat. However, there's not a lot of afterburn with cardio. And what do I mean by afterburn? Basically, if you do cardio and you burn 300 calories, you may continue burning some calories for a couple of hours afterwards because your metabolic rate is just, going is a little higher because you've exercised. But it only lasts for a few hours. When you do a weight training session, your metabolic rate stays high for 24 to 48 hours. So in other words, you're still burning an elevated amount of calories for 24 to 48 hours after an intense weight training session. So weight training is good not only for building the muscle, but it's also, like I said, it kind of stokes the furnace. You're burning more calories for a day or two afterwards. So every time you hit that weight training session, you become, like I said, your body's like a furnace, so you're burning more. So you want to balance that diet with the weight training. Now, maybe we talked about 3 days a week. 3 days a week can work. If you're a beginner, then maybe as you get more advanced, 4 to 5 days a week, depending on your schedule and your needs. And then also that cardio. And you want to do cardio at the right times. It's another very important point. Cardio is best done fasted in the morning before you eat that first meal, or right after your weight training. So, because after your weight training, again, it's similar to the morning. You've burned all of that muscle glycogen, so now your body has to rely more on body fat during the cardio. So that will work far better, and maybe you can even do less than if you did cardio at any random time of the day. So these are all very important points that will help optimize that program towards building muscle, burning fat, and getting healthy and feeling. And I don't want people to feel lousy when they're going through this process. So I always try to, balance these things out so they actually still feel good, have energy for work, have energy for kids, have energy for their friends, and they're also having a successful program.
That is some great, super great advice and information. And that, so timed carbohydrate diet, that, let me ask you this. So sometimes people refer to it as nutrient timing, eating for what you're about to do. So many people, they have that final meal. Would you, you did go over this. Would you suggest like at 5 o'clock, or so a person has a normal work schedule, say it's 8 to 4, 9 to 5, whatever it is, they schedule their meals. You mentioned the gram of protein per pound of body weight, timed carbohydrate diet. Would you recommend or suggest when that last bigger meal happens?
Well, obviously, if you have that kind of schedule and you're somebody who's maybe working out after work, so you have that big carb meal in the morning, you have maybe a smaller carb meal for your second meal, then you switch to fats. And I'll just say this because a lot of, this might be a question from people. Hey, aren't I supposed to have a bunch of carbohydrates before I work out because I need energy? Truth of the matter is that your body's going to work best off of the stored carbohydrate, which is the glycogen. So you should already have that in the muscle. That comes from restoring the glycogen after workouts and from that morning meal. So I actually prefer, and I find that if people, maybe not right away, maybe in the beginning they feel a little sluggish, but once their body gets used to it, I actually find that a protein fat meal before training, as long as you've loaded those carbs earlier in the day, works better than having carbohydrates right before you work out. And what I find is that when people have carbohydrates right before they work out, and not if it's a tiny little amount, obviously, some people load carbs. They tend to have a spike of energy, and then halfway through the workout, it tends to drop, and they feel sluggish. Or the carbohydrates themselves sometimes have an effect. I don't know if I'm sure people have had large carbohydrate meals, and then they go, oh man, I just feel like going to sleep.
Exactly.
That's not the optimal situation before you're working out. You don't want to be like, oh, I just feel like going to sleep an hour later. You're still in the middle of your workout. So when you're looking to optimize, fat loss and muscle gain, again, I just want to bring that point out there that you can work very well off of having, say a protein shake or something like that with a couple of tablespoons of peanut butter, or something like that right before you work out, as long as you have the carbohydrates earlier in the day, like I mentioned. But if your schedule is that your final meal of the day is that post-workout meal, I still recommend that higher carbohydrate meal because your body needs it. I would prefer that if it was possible, and again, it's not possible for everybody, but I prefer that people have, that height, maybe if they're having 5 meals a day, that their post-workout meal is the 4th meal, and then the final meal before bed is just protein, or protein, maybe a little bit of fat. But if that's not your schedule for some reason, your pre-workout meal has to be meal 4, and then your post-workout meal has to be meal 5. If you want to build muscle, you still need to have those carbs after you work out. Now, if this is a situation, I may recommend to somebody, I'm just thinking about some of my clients who do have this situation, I may actually make the first meal of the day an even larger carb meal so that the final carb meal is not quite as large as it normally would be if it ended up earlier. So quick example, like I said, 150 grams per day earlier. So I said 60 morning, 60 post-workout, and then 30 for the second meal. Maybe I would do something like 70 for the first meal, 40 for the second meal, so it's 110, and then only 40 for the last meal since it's occurring so late. But still, you have that 150 grams per day, and you have at least enough carbohydrates after the workout to stimulate some insulin release, which helps drive those nutrients into the muscles and also helps to refill glycogen. So, again, this is where you have to fit the basics of what I'm talking about around your life. And this is when it's great to have a coach, because the coach will figure this out for you. But people can still use this information for themselves and work it out themselves.
And speaking of coaching, Eric, give him your information for online coaching. He does a great job. Eric definitely coached me at times. Awesome, which I'm going to talk to you about again. But we're going to take a short break. TG Talk Show Radio. Eric, hit him up with your information.
If you want all information on all my different programs, go to my website, www.broserbuilt.com, or just email me directly at bodyeffects2, B-O-D-Y, the letter F, the letter X, the number 2, at AOL.com.
You're with Coach Eric Broser. I'm your host, Rob Fletcher, author of America's Next Great Trainer. Make sure you check that out and follow us on Instagram at TG Wellbeing. We'll be right back.
The Modern Druid Store at 60 South Broadway in Nyack offers a myriad of visionary choices, including mystical items such as tarot cards, jewelry, clothing, art, prints, home and decor, just to name a few. Whether for you or as a gift for friends and family, you will most certainly find the most unique items at the Modern Druid in Nyack. For more information or to learn more about the Modern Druid, visit their website at modern-druid.com and be amazed.
Tired of looking tired? Make an appointment at Middletown Aesthetic Plastic Surgery with board-certified physician Dr. Thakar, offering a plethora of treatments including Restylane, Botox, microneedling, smart lipo, and much more. Reshape, redefine, rejuvenate, and look younger naturally. Dr. Thakar's team will transform you with minimally non-surgical aesthetic treatments with little or no downtime. Call now, 845-243-3852.
Hi, this is the Goose, and I dare you to voice your take on everything sports. Every Saturday at 8 a.m. on Game Time. Think you know it all? Well, let's test it. If you're brave enough, call or text right here on radio worth listening to.
WTBQ.
We are back with Coach Eric Broser. Eric, we left off talking about that very important component of protein. So back to what we're talking about post-workout. Give people some suggestions. You know, you have BCAAs and everything else, recovery, drinks, hydration recovery. We both know. I don't know if people pay as much attention to that as they do their actual workout. What do you think? Hydration.
Well, there's definitely talking about hydration specifically.
Hydration recovery. Do you think people pay just as much attention to their recovery process and their hydration, maybe to the hydration component, but I don't believe that the recovery aligns with especially people at high level training. Their recovery is secondary.
Yeah, I mean, hydration is something important for everybody, because keeping hydrated, even just for health purposes, for instance, I just moved out to Las Vegas. Las Vegas is very, very hot, very, very dry. I've actually had to up my water game quite a bit.
What do you take? Just curiosity. How much water do you have a day? Do you figure?
I couldn't even tell you exactly. I'm just constantly
drinking water.
I have these little bottles of water that are maybe about 12 ounces, and I am constantly going down there and grabbing those and drinking them down as I'm working all day. I drink probably a big giant jug of water along with some supplements while I'm training. Obviously, I have a couple of protein shakes a day. I fill those with water. I'm just constantly hydrating myself, and I kind of know as soon as I feel. I guess I've become in touch with my body enough that I can feel when I'm dehydrated. I can feel like when I need liquids. And here in Vegas, I kind of need them pretty much all the time. But, that's something that people should pay attention to because it definitely has implications for health, has implications for, listen, the body is like 70% plus water. The muscles, if your muscles are dehydrated, bodybuilders can tell you this all the time. The muscles will go flat. You'll see a dehydrated muscle will not have any pop compared to a hydrated muscle because the muscle cells need water, and also for fat loss. Drinking more water has actually been shown to raise metabolism. So, this is.
Let's say that one more time. Drinking more water for what, Eric?
Raises your metabolism. It raises your metabolism, keeps your electrolytes, helps keep your electrolytes in order, helps keep you, feeling better. Everything in your body needs water. The muscles need water in order to function properly and to look nice and full and strong. I mean, water is probably one of the easiest ways to make yourself look and feel better, without a doubt.
And I think a lot of people that just don't follow that rule, especially when they lack energy, sometimes it's a simple thing. It's just get hydrated. Just hydrate yourself.
Yeah, the first thing I do when I wake up in the morning is actually I go downstairs and I have these super green and super red drinks. It's basically just like ground up superfoods. But I put it in two big giant glasses of water, and that's the first thing I do in the morning. And obviously part of it is, I like getting those superfoods in the morning, but it's also just to immediately after I've been sleeping all night, just get a whole bunch of water in my body and get me hydrated right away. So yeah, it's super important, and it really makes a difference. I know that sometimes it's a pain in the butt to always drink water, or you got to go to the bathroom more, but it pays dividends. So I mean, it's really important.
Like you, I know a difference right away when I don't have my fill of water.
Yeah, studies. I mean, there are plenty of scientific studies out there that have studied people when they're actually dehydrated, and strength levels go down wickedly. I mean, 10, 15, 20%. So if you're not performing well in the gym, you're like, oh, I don't understand. I slept well. I don't understand. I'm eating well. Maybe you're not drinking enough. I mean, that could be another, component that you're missing. So yeah, I mean, without a doubt, it's something that, people do tend to forget about in terms of not necessarily just recovery, just overall health and fitness.
Overall health, right.
So, but going back to the recovery component, if you wanted to talk about that after weight training, that is something that people don't pay enough attention to. And one of the things I'm just going to quickly plug here is that my new line of products coming out this month called From Spellbound Nutrition. One of the products that I made sure to create and make is a post-workout recovery formula, because when your body is done training, it's in a state of stress. It's in a state, of being broken down. And there are things that definitely should be done and things that should be taken and things should be done food-wise after a workout that will optimize what you just did in the gym. And if you miss that, you're only going to be getting, half the results from your training, no matter how hard you train.
Is that out now? You have that ready to go?
It's going to be out for this month. This month it'll come out. It's called Merlins Legendary Recovery from Spellbound Nutrition. But I'm sure we'll talk again, and I'll let you know when it actually hits.
And just so you know, that
store.
Merlin, people, the Merlin is not just thrown in. The Merlin is as in magical Merlin. The man can make amazing things happen, but you can't make amazing things happen if you don't follow them. So you got to follow the instructions and you got to execute the plan. But you do make awesome plans, and you train the best of the very best. You're always out there, training, all people from all walks of life. But you train high-end athletes, so it's great to always have you on our show and giving this information. I want to talk about what you do for meals. So meal preps, you went into it before. I think another challenging part to a person trying to make changes at any level is, food. They'll go hours and hours without food, then they'll just dive into the first thing that they can get their hands on, and then, counterintuitive to what they really want out of their workouts and their meal plans. So what can you prescribe to people that's, hey, this is pretty easy to do. If I believe in meal prep, although I have my food ready to go, but I make sure that when I don't have it ready to go, there's the backup plan where I'm going to have, fruits, vegetables, something that's easily accessible. So that satisfies my appetite. But how would you get people started on, getting more involved with meal prep?
Well, listen, it's just, again, when you think about anything that you really truly want in life, you have to make certain sacrifices if you really want it. Anything that you want in life, it's about priorities, right? So, talking about building a great physique, whatever that great physique is to you, whether it be an awesome swimmer's kind of GQ body, whether it be being, Mr. Universe, whether it be, a girl who, wants to look, really, really curvy, but with nice, flat stomach, or she wants to be more of an athlete, whatever it is, whatever your definition is of a great body, the formula is different in terms of the specifics of what you need to eat and what you need to do in the gym, but it's also the same at the same time. It takes sacrifice and it takes prioritizing, and part of prioritizing is meal prep. Because I don't care how hard you train. I don't care if you're the hardest trainer in the world, you go in the gym and you kill it every single time. You walk out sweating. Wow, I killed. If your nutrition isn't on point, forget it. You're not going to even gain, because it's just basically like tearing down a house and having no material to rebuild it. And that comes from the food. So what I generally tell people to do is to take a day, usually on the weekend, because most people work Monday through Friday, and obviously it's not for everybody, but generally, take a day and a few hours at a time, and it doesn't take that long to meal prep. You can cook yourself a whole bunch of chicken, maybe on the barbecue. Some people do it in a crock pot. Some people in the oven. You could, throw in some, whatever fish. Cook all this stuff up. Make a whole big batch of it that's going to last for the week. Do the same thing with carbs. Cook a whole big pot of rice. Cook some potato. Sweet potatoes.
That's easy to do. That's what I do. I just get my sweet potatoes and my white rice and just throw it in there.
Yeah.
Cut up my chicken. Cut up a little pineapple, spinach. Sometimes I just mix it all together and put it in a few different bowls. But it's there. It's ready to go, and very simple.
Yeah, and if you're somebody like who needs to be on a specific nutrient count, like all my clients, I put them on. I don't just say to my clients, "Hey, I want you to eat these foods." I build specific meals for them, and I have them all specifically weighed out. I let them know, I want you to have 7 ounces of this. I want you to have, 4 ounces of this. So I say, you need a food scale. There's another very, very important component. Go buy yourself a $30 food scale if you don't have one, digital food scale that weighs in ounces and grams, and you can take individual Tupperwares and say, okay, this meal I need 7 ounces of protein, but this meal I need this much. You know what I'm saying? And put them into Tupperwares. Or, if you have and then when it's in the refrigerator, you can easily pull out a big giant thing of rice. You put it on the scale, you weigh it, and you eat it. And then also have, like you said, the backups. You can never go wrong with a good protein powder. Let's say you're on the road, you're in your car, you don't have time to eat, whatever, you're busy, have yourself, protein shake. You can throw it into a water bottle. You can make up your protein like that. You can have easy-to-eat carbohydrates if it's a carbohydrate meal, whether it be rice cakes, whether it be whole grain bread, whatever. Or if you need fats, carry along with you some walnuts, some cashews, whatever. Have these fill-ins as well that can be quick meals, but they're still on your program.
Satisfy that appetite.
A little bit of planning, but it's going to complete your program and optimize your program. And if you don't do this, you're going to be one of those people who go, I don't know, I bust my ass in the gym all the time.
6 years in the gym, nothing's happening. Yeah, no changes because they're not getting the full, optimizing themselves completely. Eric, where can people find you? Again, I could talk to you forever. Love talking to you, brother. Just such a wealth of knowledge. Not only that, but real passion to help improve people's lives. So one more time, where can people find you at and get more information?
Well, again, go to my website, broserbuilt.com. You can email me directly, bodyeffects2@AOL.com. You can also find me on Facebook. Just type in Eric Broser, you'll probably find me. And on Instagram, which I spend a lot of time on Instagram, I put up a lot of good info on Instagram, at Coach Eric Broser. And also, if you want to watch, I have hundreds of videos on the Jay Cutler TV channel. So if you go onto Jay Cutler TV on YouTube and look at the playlists, you'll find Be Built by Broser on there. And you can look at all my tons of videos, which shows all my unique exercises, talks about exercise form, nutrition, everything else. So tons of information out there that you can find on me.
Coach Eric Broser, brother, a pleasure always. Make sure you check Eric out. Life will not change if you don't make that change happen. So you have to execute the plan, and he is the master at planning and preparation. So follow his lead, and you'll be a champ. Eric Broser, thank you very much. This is Rob Fletcher, TG Talk Show Radio. Make sure you check us out at TG Wellbeing. You can follow me on Instagram at ANGTTV. Have a great day.